Alright guys, welcome back to the second part of making a simple NFC app. In this tutorial, I will show you how to make a NFC write and also some styling to your app to make it more presentable. So we may started with styling our previous tutorial to make just the NFC app reader part look a bit more, not having the blue button taking up the whole screen. And I'm gonna make sure the whole frame is roughly 0.9 of the screen. So now we have a we basically have our symbol NFC read section. We now moving over to make our right view. In the case we just gonna for right view, we're just gonna be moving to another view. So we're just gonna embed that into navigational view. Let's do some styling for navigational bar. So now we're gonna put in padding 20, so we can make the text box a bit separate from the navigation bar to not make them stick together. In the right view, I'm just gonna make a simple text right view. So for the right view, I'll make a star state, my bad, to show right. In this case, I'm using my custom variable basically to make my own custom back button when I'm in my right view. You don't have to use you don't need this variable if you're going to use the default back button provided by navigational view. But from my experience, it stopped working after the first time you navigate to the view and you click back. So I just end up using my own custom to make it easier. There's some sort of bug from Apple that had yet been fixed. So you see here we have the message display in the middle. Basically it's saying that if my message is empty, I'm just gonna display a holder message and make it gray. If not, we're gonna make it black. How I'm gonna move that to the top to make the stack alignment top leading, so we don't have the message right in the middle. Let's see, now we can moving over to make a right button. For the right button, last I mentioned, it's just gonna be a navigational link to our right view. Alright, resume, and now we should have a working NFC right view. Let's do some customize on navigational bar on NFC. Also we're gonna make our custom back button that would trigger is active when we press back. It basically will let our parent view know that the show right have been toggled to false when we click the back button, and it's gonna go back to our parent view. Right, so now we have a right view working. Let's move over to making our NFC's right function. In this tutorial, I want to show you to write for a text and the URL. So in this case, I'm just gonna make an enum of record type. This basically will let my NFC session right know whether what type of data that I'm passing in, so you can know to trigger a proper function with proper structure that we can be setting up later in the variable. There's something wrong here. I make a mistake. This will be a class, and we're gonna conform to all protocols. In the error function, you don't have to do anything unless you want to. You can implement your own error, just like the last time that how we did with NFC read. Reader session. For the reader session function with the detect NFC, you won't be using this function because this function simply is saying that do something when you receive a message. In our case, we want to do something when we receive a tag, and I want to implement a reader session. They become active just to silence the console. Reader session where we detect tag will be where we write our write logic, and we're gonna make our begin scanning very similar to the NFC read. So here I'm gonna put a message as a string, and on the rector we're gonna set default as text. So in case that they don't pass anything, we're just gonna write as a text, and that will be the simplest form. So here we're just gonna make our app just to make sure that the app is available for NFC functionality. In this case, we'll make our invalid after first read to false because we want our tag to be available after the first read, and giving time for the write function to basically run through the whole logic before we invalidate ourselves. So basically we'll be invalid the session manually. It's the same thing. We'll set the alert message to let the user know when to start when the session start, and we're just gonna begin scanning. So now in our writing logics. So in this tutorial, I want to show how to make one tag. So here I'm writing a safeguard function where we're gonna be resetting our session if one tag is detected, and I want to give it a 2000 millisecond, basically a 2-second delay. That way we will let our user to see the error message, and then we'll restart our session. Alright, so now we know that we have only one tag. Now we're gonna connect to the tag. Right, we're gonna now, since we know that there's a tag available, we can just forecast unwrap the tag, as we know it's not empty nor have more than one tag. So here we're gonna check to make sure that there's no error occur while connecting the tag. If it does, we're just gonna return an error message and cancel our session, so the user have to start it again. Now we know that there's no error connecting the tag. Now we're gonna query the status, which the closure will give us 3 variable. So we have an NFC and DEF status, which would tell us the tag status, such as is it able to read only, write only, or is protected, etc., etc. Capacity, we will be using it, and error, as we mentioned, if there's some sort of error, we're just gonna write a save function to return. And here we're gonna make, so now we know that no error have occurred, we're gonna give a switch statement to write function correlate to the status. So we only care about the read and write case. The rest can be very generic. I'm just gonna write a alert message and just invalidate the session for all 3 for not supported, read only, and unknown default. Now we're gonna head over to read write to write our code logic for the write function. All the print line is for me for my debugging purpose. You don't have to include it. Let the payload. So we make our payload according to NFC and DEF payload, and it will be optional as we be not setting it right now. And we're gonna make a switch statement of the record type, so we can write function for a very specific data type that we plan to write on our NFC tag. And for text case, we're just gonna make guard, make sure it's not empty, not some sort of empty data, because that will not be writing anything. So the payload, for writing payload, you have 2 options. You can use either the built-in function, or you can use you can manually input it yourself. So for NFC payload, it will include 4 fields. There's a format field, the type field, identifier, and the payload. Typically, the identifier will be optional, as but in Apple they make it optional for us, so we have to write it. You can just enter anything here. It can be text data, etc., etc. For format, we just conform to well-known, as it's the most widely used, and type T is standing for text. This is not a URI, so we're just gonna conform the type code that according to the format. And the payload, just our message, and we conform everything to UTF-8 data. And for URL, same thing, we're just gonna guard it, make sure it's a proper URL. And for the payload, this is the second method that I'm mentioning, is that you don't want to make everything manual. You can use the built-in function for well-known type payload, and we know that we have a URL up top, so we just pass the URL in. And now we're gonna make our message. We basically, now we have a payload as our record. Now we're gonna make an array of record to write into our tag. And here I'm just gonna use a tag.write NDF function. We're gonna pass in our message, and then we're receiving the error. We just gonna invalidate the session. We're gonna put in the error for debugging. If we invalidate it, if we success, we'll do the same thing. We just print success, and we have to manually validate it regardless if it's success or fault. So now you have your writing function ready. Now we're gonna head back over to our write view. We're gonna start with a state. So this record is gonna be using for the text field that we're gonna type our message in, and the selection is to use for our picker. We're gonna declare our session write object, and we're gonna make a record type. In this case, I'm gonna make a struct or payload. Basically, this is just gonna consist of what the record type and the picker message for us to display. I'm pretty sure there's a better approach if you decide to use your custom picker, but for the sake of the tutorial, I'm gonna give it a symbol to make it a struct, too easy for me to loop through. And here we're making our button to trigger the right action. And we're gonna pass in our record and an appropriate record type. I make an error. Right, perfect. With that, now you should have a simple NFC app running. So here is a screen recording of my phone. I'm gonna show you the reading. NFC is working, and also we're gonna do a write NFC using text. There's some sort of bug with navigational back. As you can see, I have to click back twice. I believe you can solve this by moving your button out of your navigational link. There's some sort of bug that's coming from Apple. So thank you for watching, and thank you for staying through this long tutorial. I hope to see you guys in the next video. If you have any recommendation, please leave it in the comment below, and thank you so much. Also, you can grab the code at my website, just code with Con. The post should be up there when the video is uploaded. Thank you.